Last night, I went inside an abandoned building because I wanted to try and find something different for my channel. I watch a lot of videos where people explore places like that, and I thought maybe I could do on my own. But there was one moment inside that building where I stopped recording, stopped moving, and honestly started questioning whether I should even be there. I heard something breathing in the hallway. So, I want to explain what happened from the beginning. I've been wanting to try a different kind of video for my channel. I'm a fan of creepy storytime videos, abandoned building videos, and, paranormal exploration videos, stuff like that. I wondered what it would feel like to go somewhere creepy and actually try to document it myself. I'm not saying this was the smartest idea. Looking back at it now, I probably should have just had somebody with me. But at the time, I thought I was just going to walk around, take some pictures, maybe hear a few weird building noises, and then leave. But the longer I stayed there, the more it started feeling like the building was reacting to me being inside. When I first got there, the whole street was quiet. Not completely silent, but quiet in that weird way where you can hear little things way clearly than usual. Cars passing away, wind getting loose somewhere, a dog barking a few blocks over. The building looked exactly like the kind of place you tell yourself you're not going into. And then for some reason, you still walk toward it. The front windows were boarded up, but some of the boards were loose. There was old graffiti on the walls, weeds growing up through the concrete, and the front door looked like it had been forced open a long time ago. I remember standing outside for a second and thinking, okay, I'll just go in, take a few pictures, and then leave. The first thing I noticed when I stepped inside was the smell. It smelled like wet wood, dust, old metal, and something else I couldn't really place. Not rotten exactly, but stale, like the air had been trapped in there for years. My footsteps sounded way louder than they should have. Every little movement echoed. Even when I shifted my weight, it sounded like the whole building heard me. I didn't play any music while I was there. I wanted to listen. I wanted to hear if anything moved. And honestly, that made it even worse. After a few minutes, I heard the first one. It came from deep inside the building. It wasn't loud. It was more like soft scrape, like something being dragged lightly across the floor. At first, I told myself it was probably a pipe settling, or or like a piece of wood shifting, or maybe an animal. That's the thing about being in a place like that. Your brain tries to explain everything because you don't want the scary answer to be real. But then I heard it again. This time it was closer. I found a hallway on the left side of the building. It was long, narrow, and the flashlight barely reached the end of it. There were rooms on both sides, but most of them were too dark to see into from the hallway. The weirdest part was how cold it got there. The front room was chilly, but this hallway felt different. It felt like walking into a freezer. I stood there for a second and just listened. That's when I heard tapping, not footsteps, tapping. Three taps, then silence, then three taps again. I took a picture down the hallway, mostly because I wanted to see if the camera could catch more than my eyes could. At first, I didn't notice anything. I just saw darkness, doorways, trash on the floor, and the end hall. But when I looked at the picture later, I noticed something at the far end. I'm not saying it was a person. I'm not saying it was a ghost. I don't know what it was. It looked like a shape standing there. And I know for a fact that I did not see anyone standing there when I took the picture. One of the rooms had a chair sitting in the middle of it. That might not sound scary, but it looked wrong. Everything else in the building was thrown around: trash, broken boards, old insulation, pieces of ceiling. But this chair was sitting in the center of the room, facing the doorway. It looked like somebody had placed it there on purpose. I remember standing in the doorway and not wanting to go inside. Then I heard a sound from behind me. A breath. Not wind, not pipe, a breath. Like someone standing a few feet behind me had just exhaled. I turned around so fast I almost dropped my phone. There was nothing there, but the hall felt different now. It felt occupied. That's the only way I can explain it. Before, it felt empty and creepy. Now, it felt something was in there with me. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear talking. Again. This time it sounded like it was coming from the hallway in front of me. And then, from one of the rooms, I heard something whisper. I couldn't make out words. It was more like a low, broken voice, like someone trying to talk without enough air. At this point, I should have left, but instead, I made the mistake of going towards the stairs. I don't even know why. Maybe because I wanted to prove to myself that it was nothing. Maybe because part of me still wanted content for the video. Either way, I started going up. Every step made this loud creaking sound. I heard something above me, a slow drag, like someone pulling one foot across the floor. I froze on the stairs. Then it stopped. The second floor felt worse than the first. The air was heavier. The floor felt weak in some spots, so I had to move carefully. There were rooms with broken doors, wires hanging from the ceiling, and old graffiti that looked like it had been there for years. I kept hearing little sounds around me. A click from one room, a knock from another, something moving somewhere behind the walls. But the worst part was that every time I stopped walking, the sound stopped too. Like whatever it was only moved when I moved. There was one room upstairs where the window was mostly boarded, but there was a small gap between two boards. I looked toward it because I thought I saw movement, and for a second, I thought I saw a face looking in. That makes no sense because I was on the second floor. I took a picture without thinking. When I looked at it after, I could see something pale near the gap. It might be light, it might be dust, it might be nothing. But in the moment, I felt like something was building within me. Then there was a bang. Not a small noise, not a creak, a bang. It came from the end of the hallway, like someone had slammed a door or hit the wall with something heavy. I actually said out loud, "Hello?" And as soon as I said that, I regretted it because something answered. Not with words, with another bang. This one was closer. That was when I decided I was done. I started heading back towards the stairs, trying not to run because the floor didn't feel safe, but also trying to get out as fast as possible. As I got to the stairs, I heard movement behind me, fast around. I just went down the stairs. My flashlight was shaking so bad that I could barely see where I was stepping. When I got back to the entrance, I took one last picture behind me. I don't even remember doing it. I think I just hit the button while I was moving. That picture is probably the one that bothers me the most, because behind me, in the hallway, there's this dark shape. I don't know if it's a shadow. I don't know if it's something hanging from the ceiling. I don't know if it's just the camera freaking out in low light. But it looks like something was standing there, watching me leave. When I got outside, everything was quiet again. That was the weirdest part. No footsteps, no banging, no breathing, nothing. The street looked normal. The building looked dead. And I stood there for a minute, trying to convince myself that I just scared myself. Maybe it was the wind, maybe it was animals, maybe old buildings just make weird noises. But then I looked back at the doorway, and I swear it looked darker than it did when I first went in. So that's what happened last night. I went there because I wanted to try a new kind of content for the channel. I thought it would be creepy but fun. I thought I'd come back with a few spooky pictures and a story to tell. But I don't know what I actually brought back. I'm not going to say I'll ever do something like this again. I'm also not going to say I'm going to be rushing to go back. For now, I just wanted to tell you what happened, show you what I captured, and let you decide what you think was in that building. If you saw something in one of those pictures that I missed, let me know. Because honestly, I'm not sure I want to look at them too closely again.